Chapter 1. Silence at the Table. A light rain fell over the city on that muggy afternoon. Inside one of the neighborhood's most elegant restaurants, cutlery clinked gently against porcelain, classical music played softly in the background, and the waiters moved as if performing a silent dance. At the last table in the dining room, almost hidden behind marble columns, sat a man who seemed completely out of place. A wrinkled dress shirt, worn-out trousers at the edges, and shoes showing clear signs of use. He looked over the menu calmly, like someone who cared more about flavor than appearance. His name was Miguel, and no one there knew who he truly was. People passed by casting discreet glances, or not so discreet. Some customers whispered and frowned. A young couple even commented to the waiter, "Do people like that come in here now? This place is starting to look like a bus terminal." The waiter hesitated. He didn't want to sound prejudiced, but he also didn't want to displease regulars. He approached Miguel with a forced smile. "Good afternoon, sir. Are you sure you're in the right restaurant?" Miguel looked up, his eyes calm without confrontation. "Yes, I am. I heard this place serves the best risotto in town." The waiter took a deep breath, bothered by the man's serenity. "Of course. It's just that," he cleared his throat, "this is a fine dining restaurant. The prices are a bit higher." Miguel didn't seem shaken. "I'm aware. Could you bring me a glass of water, please?" The waiter walked away, unable to hide his discomfort. In the background, the manager watched. The atmosphere was beginning to feel heavy. Miguel didn't move. He kept an upright posture, eyes fixed on the window, as if waiting for something, a deal or someone. 30 minutes passed. The stares continued. Some whispered that he must be homeless. Others assumed he was waiting for someone to ask for money. That's when an elegant older woman entered the restaurant, accompanied by 2 assistants. She wore fine clothing, discreet jewelry, and carried herself with impeccable grace. She paused, looked around, and then her eyes met Miguel's. The entire dining room went silent as she walked straight to him. "Sorry I'm late, Miguel. Traffic was a nightmare," she said with a genuine smile. Miguel stood up. He kissed her hand gently. "No problem. Clara, good to see you." She looked around, sensing the mood in the room. "Are you sure this place treated you well?" Miguel smiled subtly. "So far, yes." They sat down. The waiter, now visibly tense, returned with the menus and the water. "Would you like to order?" Clara stared at him, firm and direct. "I'll have the usual, and bring us the best wine in the house. It's on me. After all, I'm having dinner with the most important donor to our foundation." The room froze. Her words echoed like a hammer strike across every table. From that moment on, the silent judgment turned into silent embarrassment. But Miguel said nothing. He didn't mock. He didn't seek revenge with words. He simply turned back to the window, as if all of it were just another ordinary night. And to him, maybe it truly was. After all, appearances rarely reflect the true worth of a soul. Chapter 2. The story behind the name dinner continued under a cloud of uneasy silence. The whispers had stopped, but glances still flickered in their direction. The waiter, now visibly embarrassed, served with more care, clearly trying to make up for the cold reception he had given Miguel. Mrs. Clara, the renowned president of a social impact foundation that helped at-risk youth, chatted warmly with Miguel. "When I saw your anonymous donation, I thought it was a system error," she said, smiling. "It wasn't a mistake, I just didn't think my name needed to be on it. What matters is what the help causes, not who signs the check," he replied, with simple honesty. Clara nodded, moved. "But today, more than ever, I realize we need to show who the change-makers are. The world needs to see that generosity has no face, no dress code." Across the room, the manager, ashamed of his earlier judgment, approached with a bottle of wine in hand. "Excuse me, Mr. Miguel, Mrs. Clara, this is a gift from the house. On behalf of the whole team, we apologize if there was any misunderstanding," he said, trying to keep his dignity. Miguel accepted the gesture with a subtle nod. No need to apologize. I've gotten used to the labels people put on me, but I'm glad that today, maybe, some of those labels will fall. The manager walked away, thoughtful. As the night went on, one of the young waiters named Samuel discreetly approached Miguel. "Excuse me, sir. I saw how they treated you. I didn't want to follow that example." Miguel looked at him kindly. "It's okay, kid. You've got plenty of time to do things differently. Just don't ever forget, people are rarely what they seem at first glance." Samuel hesitated, but finally asked the question that had been burning in his mind. "Are you rich, sir?" Miguel chuckled. "Depends on what you mean by rich. Money." Miguel paused for a few seconds. "I had a lot. Lost everything, and gained more than I ever imagined," he said. "Today I'm rich in purpose." Samuel looked puzzled. "Purpose? When you discover what you came into this world for, and start living for that, nothing else matters. As much. Not the suit, not the car, not what people think of you." Clara smiled, eyes glistening. That was Miguel in essence. He had lost everything not long ago. Business, property, status. Betrayed by partners, abandoned by so-called friends. He spent months in a small rented room, selling used books on the street. But amid the pain, he found a new reason to live, helping young people who, like he once was, were on the margins. Unseen, he founded social projects. He invested what little he had left into scholarships, workshops, shelters, all far from cameras, away from the spotlight. That's why Clara wanted to show him to the world. But Miguel insisted on staying anonymous. "I don't want to be a hero. I want to be a bridge." That phrase stayed in Samuel's mind, and that night he wrote in his notebook, "I want to be a bridge." Dinner ended with a more beautiful silence, the kind that comes from reflection, and a restaurant that night stopped being just a place of appearances and became the stage for a quiet revolution, a revolution started by someone no one expected, and this was just the beginning. Chapter 3. Voices that spread. The next morning, the restaurant still buzzed with talk of the night before. Some staff said it was just a coincidence. Others claimed it was a lesson they'd never forget. But one thing was certain, no one left. That place the same. Samuel, the young waiter, kept thinking about Miguel's words. "I want to be a bridge." That phrase echoed in his mind during his ride home. Once there, he opened the worn-out notebook where he recorded his dreams, even the wildest ones, and wrote once more. "Today, I found out that a man with a simple appearance can carry a revolution in his jacket pocket." Then he posted his experience on social media, without naming anyone. The post went viral within hours. People were deeply touched by the story of the man judged by his looks who changed an entire restaurant in one night. Comments poured in from all sides. "This happened to me. My dad was like this. No one believed in him until he saved the school he worked at." Judging by clothes is the disease of our generation. What was meant to be just a dinner had become a national conversation. Clara, seeing the reach, knew she had to act. She knew Miguel hated attention, but she also knew the world needed more stories like his. She called him that afternoon. "Miguel, did you see what's happening?" "I did. And honestly, I'm still surprised how a simple gesture can cause so much noise." "It's not noise, it's impact. People are starving for humanity. And you feed those souls." He stayed silent. Clara pressed on. "You tell your story, not to exalt you, but to inspire others to do the same. The world needs bridges, remember?" Miguel sighed. "As long as they don't use my name. And don't show my face. Let the story be bigger than me." Clara smiled, emotional. Deal. That same week, a major magazine published an article titled "The Invisible Man Who Changed a Restaurant." Written by Clara, it recounted the experience without revealing identities, but with enough detail to touch any reader's heart. The word spread like wildfire. TV programs reached out to Clara. Schools used the article in ethics and civics lessons. Companies launched internal campaigns about respect, empathy, and diversity. But the most powerful thing was the silent movement beginning to bloom. Young people who had never believed in themselves started messaging Clara's foundation, asking for guidance, support, or simply saying, "I want to be a bridge too." Miguel, watching from afar, remained calm. He didn't want fame, but he finally understood that even anonymity can be powerful when it becomes an example. And as the voices spread, something even more unexpected was on its way, because when empathy becomes a seed, the world begins to blossom. Chapter 4. The value of a name. A few weeks had passed since the story had gone viral. Miguel kept going to the same restaurant at the same time, wearing the same simple clothes. But something had changed, not in him, but in the way people looked at him. The suspicious glances were gone. Now they were curious, respectful, even admiring. Samuel, the young waiter, greeted him with a different kind of smile. Clara always welcomed him with a special table, as if saving a spot not for a client anymore, but for someone who had become part of the soul of the place. "It's busier tonight," Miguel said, sitting at his usual table. "Ever since the article, we've nearly doubled our numbers. But more than that, people come here because of the story. They want to feel like they're part of something bigger," Clara replied, her eyes sparkling. Miguel gave a slight smile. It wasn't pride. It was something closer to relief, like someone who finally understands where the crack in the wall let the light in. That night, something new happened. A group of businessmen walked into the restaurant. Men in expensive suits, shiny watches, wearing strong perfumes. They looked around, searching for someone. Clara approached them. "Can I help you?" One of them, tall, with graying hair and a firm voice, replied, "We're looking for Mr. Miguel. We were told he usually dines here." Clara hesitated. She looked at Miguel, who was quietly observing from a distance with his usual calm. He gave a subtle nod. The businessman walked over. "Are you Miguel Montero?" "Yes," he answered simply. "Sorry to disturb you. We're from the Nova Ponte Foundation. We work with social inclusion and training for at-risk youth." "Familiar with us?" Miguel nodded. "I know you. I've donated to your foundation a few times, quietly." "Well then," the man continued, pulling an envelope from his jacket, "we'd like to invite you to be the honorary patron of our new project. A professional training center for youth from low-income communities. It will be called the Miguel Montero Center of Opportunity." Miguel went silent for a long moment. "Why my name?" "Because, Mr. Miguel, what you did here changed everything. You reminded us that the worth of a person isn't in what they wear, but in what they build, in what they inspire. Your name has already become a symbol, even without you wanting it." Samuel, standing nearby, was holding back tears. Clara placed her hand over her heart, deeply moved. For the first time in a long time, Miguel felt something he couldn't quite name: belonging. "If it helps young people who were once like me, then I accept, but under one condition." "What condition?" "That the center keeps its doors open, that no one has to prove they deserve to be there, that everyone can walk in. No judgment." The man extended his hand. "Deal." Miguel shook it firmly. That night he didn't pay for his dinner. The entire restaurant stood to applaud him, not as a hero, but as a symbol of something the world had forgotten. True greatness lives in humility, and the value of a name is born from the bridges it builds. Chapter 5. The banquet of Bridges time passed. The restaurant that had once been just another ordinary spot in the city center had become a symbol of resistance, of rediscovery, and of humanity. Miguel's story had already been told in newspapers, TV shows, even documentaries, but he remained the same: discreet, kind, unwavering in his simplicity. The center bearing his name was inaugurated 3 months later. Hundreds of young people were welcomed with open arms, many of them dismissed by society, labeled by their looks, by the zip code where they were born. But there, they learned that worth isn't measured in money. It's measured in action, in purpose, in starting over. Miguel was there at the inauguration. When he arrived, wearing simple clothes and worn-out shoes, some didn't recognize him right away. But it only took a look, a gesture, a word, and everyone understood. He didn't need to look important. He was important. Clara was one of the first to embrace him that day. "This all exists because of you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "No, Clara. This exists because someone saw beyond. Because you didn't push me out that night. You started the bridge. I just walked across it." Her words were lost in silent tears. Samuel was there too. He was now one of the center's volunteer organizers, helping prepare meals for the students every day. He said Miguel had lit a spark in him he hadn't even known was there. "When I saw how they treated you that night, and then found out who you were, I realized I had judged too, and that I needed to change. Not just for you, but for myself." That afternoon, a big lunch was served at the center. Miguel sat at the table with young people of all kinds, wearing torn sneakers, dyed hair, eyes that had only ever known suspicion. And there, between bites of food, laughter, and shared stories, something became very clear. He was exactly where he was meant to be, in the middle of the bridge, connecting worlds that had long been kept apart. As the day ended, a young woman named Aline approached him. "Mr. Miguel, I just wanted to say thank you. I used to think that someone like me couldn't go anywhere. But when I learned the center had your name and read your story, it felt like I had permission to try." Miguel took her hands in his. "You don't need permission to dream, Aline, just the courage to begin, and someone to remind you of that when you forget." She smiled through tear-filled eyes. Before leaving, Miguel looked at the building, at the people, at the connections that had been born from it. He felt his chest swell. For the first time, he didn't feel invisible, he felt whole. Out on the sidewalk, Clara caught up to him. "Are you still going to the restaurant tonight?" Miguel smiled. "No, tonight I'm the guest of honor at a different banquet." "Banquet?" "Yes, a banquet of bridges." And he walked away, leaving behind a trail of change, renewed gazes, and a certainty that echoed like a promise. Never underestimate the silence of an ordinary person. Sometimes that's where the world's greatest transformation is quietly waiting.